Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm telling a story about an orphan boy. So let's start. The 48th story of Oliver Twist. Monks visits Mr. Brownlow. The twilight was beginning to close in when Mr. Brownlow, along with two other men, alighted from a hackney coach at Mr. Brownlow's signal. They helped out a third man and hurried him into the house. This man was Monks. They walked into a back room. Monks, who had assented with evident reluctance, stopped. If he hesitates or moves a finger, but as you bid him, call for the police and impeach him as a felon in my name, said Mr. Brownlow. How dare you say this of me? Asked Monk. How dare you urge me to it? Young man, replied Mr. Brownlow, confronting him with a steady look. Are you mad enough to leave this house? But what authority am I kidnapped in the street and brought here by these dogs? Asked Monks, looking at the men who stood beside him. By mine, replied Mr. Brownlow. Those persons are indefinite by me. You can go free at your own risk, but do not blame me later. Monks was disconcerted and alarmed. He hesitated. Is there? Demanded Monks. Is there? No middle course. No. Monks looked at the old gentleman and shrugging his shoulders sat down. Lock the door from outside, said Mr. Brownlow to the attendants, and come when I ring. The man obeyed, and the two were left alone together. This is pretty treatment, sir, said Monks, throwing down his hat and cloak. From my father's oldest friend. It is because I was your father's oldest friend, young man, replied Mr. Brownlow, that I am moved to treat you gently now, Edward Leaford. This is all might fine, said Monks, but what do you want with me? You have a brother, said Mr. Brownlow, Oliver Twist. I have no brother, replied Monks. You know, I was an only child, you know that, as well as I do. Attend to what I do know. And you may not, said Mr. Brownlow. I know that of the wretched marriage you were the sole and a most unnatural issue. I don't care for hard names, interrupted Monks with a jeering laugh. You know the fact that that's enough for me. But I also know, pursued the old gentleman, how listlessly and wearily each of that wretched pair dragged on their marriage, and at last they broke apart. Well, they were separated, said Monks, and what of that? When they had been separated for some time, returned Mr. Brownlow, your mother was wholly given up to frivolities, and your father fell among new friends. Not I, said Monks, determined to deny everything. Not I. Among these new friends, said Mr. Brownlow, was a widower, naval officer retired from active service. He had two beautiful daughters, a beautiful girl of 19 and the other a mere child of 2 or 3 years old. What's this to me? Asked Monks. As the old officer knew your father more and more, he grew to love him. His daughter did the same, said Mr. Brownlow. One of your father's relatives in Rome died, leaving him a lot of money. He went and was seized with mortal illness there. The moment the news reached Paris, your mother left for Rome, carrying you with her. He died the day after her arrival, leaving no will, so the whole property fell to her and you. Monks held his breath and listened with intense eagerness. Before he went abroad, and he has passed through London on his way, said Mr. Brownlow slowly, and fixing his eyes upon the other's face. He came to me and left with me, among some other things, a portrait painted by him. He wanted to convert his whole property into money, and having settled on his wife and you with a portion of recent accusation, to fly the country. I guessed too. Well, he would not fly alone. Alas, but was the last time. I never saw him after that. I went, said Mr. Brownlow, after a short pause, to the scene of his guilty love, resolved that she should be proved shelter and security. But the family had left the place by night. Why or where? None could tell. Monks drew his breath yet more freely and looked round with a smile of triumph. When your brother, said Mr. Brownlow, drawing nearer to the other's chair, a feeble, ragged, neglected child was cast in my way by Providence and rescued by me for a life of vice and infamy. What? Cried Monks. By me, said Mr. Brownlow, when he was rescued by me and lay recovering from sickness in my house. His strong resemblance to this picture I have spoken of struck me with astonishment. As you know, he was sneered away before I knew his history. I? Daniel to me is vain, replied Mr. Brownlow. I shall show you that I know more than that. You? You can't prove anything against me, stammered Monks. We shall see, returned the old gentleman with a searching glance. I lost the boy, and no efforts of mine could recover him. Your mother being dead, I knew that you alone could solve the mystery, and as I when I had last heard of you, you were on your own estate in the West Indies. I made the voyage. You had left it, and were supposed to be in London, but no one could tell where. I returned and inquired about you. I paced the streets night and day, but until 2 hours ago, all my efforts were fruitless, and I never saw you for an instant. And now, do you see me? Asked Monks, rising boldly. What then? Within the last fortnight, I have learnt it all, replied Mr. Brownlow. You have a brother, you know him. There was a will which your mother destroyed. It contained a reference to some child likely to be the result of this sad connection. You met this child accidentally, and you noticed his resemblance to your father. You went to the place of his birth and destroyed proofs of his birth and parentage. In your own words, to your accomplice, the Jew, the only proof of the boy's identity lies at the bottom of the river, and the old hag that received from the mother is rotting in her coffin. Unworthy son, coward liar, you who hold your counsels with thieves and murderers in dark rooms at night, you Edward Leaford, do you still brave me? No, no, returned the coward, overwhelmed by his accumulated charges. Every word, cried the gentleman, every word that has passed between you and this detested villain is known to me. Murder has been done, to which you were morally, if not really a party. No, interposed Monks. I knew nothing of that. I thought it was a common quarrel. It was a partial disclosure of your secrets, replied Mr. Brownlow. Will you disclose the whole? Yes, I will. Set your hand to a statement of truth and facts, and repeat it before witness. That I promise to. Remain quietly here until such a document is drawn up, and proceed with me for the purpose of attesting it. If you insist upon that, I will do that also, replied Monks. You must do more than that, said Mr. Brownlow. Make restitution to an innocent and unoffending child. You have not forgotten the provisions of the will. Carry them into execution so far as your brother is concerned, and then go where you please. In this world, you need meet no more. While Monks was meditating on the possibilities of evading it, the door was hurriedly unlocked, and Mr. Losberne entered the room in violent agitation. The man will be taken, he cried. He will be taken tonight. The murderer, asked Mr. Brownlow. Yes, replied the other. His dog has been seen lurking about some old haunt, and it seems that his master will be there. Spies are hovering about, and he cannot escape. A reward of £100 is proclaimed by government tonight. I will give 50 more, said Mr. Brownlow, and proclaim it with my own lips upon the spot, if I can reach it. Where is Mr. Millie? Harry has gone there already, replied the doctor. Fagin, said Mr. Brownlow. What of him? When I last heard, he had not been taken, but he will be, or is by this time. They are sure of him. Have you made up your mind? Asked Mr. Brownlow, in a low voice of Monks. Yes, he replied. You will be the secret with me. I will. Remain here till I return. It is yours only hope of safety. They left the room, and the door was again locked. What have you done? Asked the doctor in a whisper. All that I could hope to do, and even more. I left him no loophole of escape. Which way have they taken? Drive straight to the office, and you will be in time, replied Mr. Losberne. I will remain here. The two gentlemen hastily separated, each in a fever excitement wholly uncontrollable.